All right, today's question is probably one that many of us have, and it's probably very frustrating for the mother and it's also kind of funny because I can totally relate to this. So she says, I hope I'm not alone in this, but does anybody else have a kid who completely takes advantage of being at home and not doing their assignments? We use this online program, and my 12-year-old just breezes through the videos, will not do the worksheets, and then tries to spend all of his time on the games. We've tried another online academy too, and just workbooks instead of any screen time. And honestly, we have been homeschooling for years and it's getting ridiculous. He's getting way behind and giving me nothing but attitude. On occasion, he will just do what he needs to do, but it's rare. We do some fun activities, and I'm seriously very easy on him. But when does this get better? So, I can totally relate to this because I actually have a kid about the same age and kind of does the same thing. However, being that she's my youngest instead of my oldest, I see this a little differently. So one thing I've found is that right around this age, about 12, outside influences can help a lot, like having a co-op or having some real accountability with that and having some peer pressure, right? But like on a deeper level, perhaps we need to look more at what motivates this child and what do they love and do they actually understand the purpose of schoolwork. Like so often homeschooling, we want to give that responsibility of education over to our kids, but then they don't do anything. So it's kind of like we send them off there and we say, okay, here you go, do this, good luck, right? And sometimes we'll help them, but then they don't want to do it because they don't see the point. And so it is really a tricky thing, okay? So one thing that I found that helps with this is just to sit down and have a heart-to-heart with the kid and chat with them about it, because at their core level, they don't want to be dumb. They want to know things, but they don't want to do the work to get there quite often, right? And so sometimes we just got to sit down and chat with them and say, hey, what would make this better? How can we help? And because I want you to grow up and to have an education, but I can't make you do it, right? And I don't want to nag you all day long. So having a heart can really help. The next thing that I wanted to mention was there are different kids, or well, we'll put it this way. Human beings, not just kids, all have different tendencies in the way that they are motivated. You have some kids who will just do what they're supposed to do because you ask them to, which is great. You have other kids who, when you ask them what to do something, will do it, but only if they think it makes sense for them to do it, if it will benefit them. And then you have other kids who will do what you say to do, but the whole time they'll try to avoid it, or they'll wait till the very last minute, till the very last deadline. And in homeschool, often we don't have deadlines. So they will do it, but they have to have that deadline. And then you have some other kids who will flat out refuse to do it at all and will never do it. Or they'll say they were going to do it and then they don't do it at all. So what you have to do is figure out what motivates them, okay? Now, those different types come from the book called The Four Tendencies, and that's very eye-opening. If you want to read that, I have a whole workshop on that in my membership, but it was a total game changer in my house to understand where their motivation's coming from. So the third tip that I have, so we'll review first so we can remember, okay? So my first thing is getting outside influences. The second thing is looking at, or just having a heart-to-heart with them and looking at what motivates them. And then the third thing is I have to often look at what I'm thinking of the child, because often when I look at the child, I get frustrated because first off, I see my own failings and I think, oh my gosh, this kid's a mess. I must be a mess too because I'm his mother and I have not gotten him where I want him to be. And I start focusing on all the kids' weaknesses. And I start missing the bigger picture of seeing who this amazing kid is. Because If I can start reframing the way I look at this child and say, wow, this kid is amazing. Okay, maybe they're driving me nuts, but this kid has so much potential and I want to unlock that. And what I've been focusing on lately is all the things wrong with them. And so, of course, he doesn't want to try to live up to his potential because I'm always on him, right? So if I get frustrated with a kid that's not doing what I think they should do, I have to really remind myself of these questions like, what am I thinking of them? Am I seeing the potential, the amazing person they are inside? Could I be focusing better on their strengths rather than the weaknesses? Do I believe in this child? And so usually, like maybe I'm thinking these really negative thoughts about the kid because that's what's frustrating me because I'm like, right. What I usually need to do is rewrite my story about that child so I can see him from a different perspective. And sometimes I literally do rewrite it about how I want to be thinking about that child instead and start believing in them. And it changes things. Like maybe not right away. And maybe they don't even start doing the things I want them to do. But I am less frustrated. And they can sense that as well. So I do have a kid in this situation that does prefer not to do their homework at home, right? But we are still practicing and it is getting better. And after 7 kids, I know, you know what? This is actually really common at this age. A couple of my kids have been the type where they just do it. And many of my kids have not been, right? But I just have to learn that I need to be patient. And I really have to just remember to think better about the kid and help them remember who they are because they're at this space where they're trying to figure out who they are and if they have value. And if I'm always on them, that is so not motivating for them, right? It's also easy to look at these kids who are 12, 13 years old, and you got to look at them, and you're like, oh my word, high school's coming up. This is never going to happen. There's no way this kid's getting into college, let alone learn how to write, right? But if you truly believe in them and they know it, it is amazing how they can take off as teens. So I hope those 3 tips are helpful of getting an outside influence, figuring out what motivates them, talking with them about that, and then changing the way you think about him. It can change a lot. And just remember, you're not alone. It's not uncommon. And your kid is probably so amazing, but sometimes you forget. And if you want to remember, go look at him when he's sleeping. And then you can start to remember. You love your child. You know he's amazing. And he's going to get there. And you can believe that too.